and justice for all. Moment of silence. Okay. All right, so public comments are our first item. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Please alert staff that you would like to make a public comment by pressing *9 to raise your hand. And then please keep in mind, we may not be able to address your item if it's not on the agenda this evening. However, we will take it under consideration and work with staff if it warrants to come in the next meeting. So are there any public comments, Carrie?
Yes, I know, and I'm going to butcher her name. I'm so sorry. Diana
Eigner.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I had called earlier today to ask about the public comment period. So I own 2 rental properties in Sykesville in town limits, but I personally live outside of limits. I'm currently one of the administrators of the Save Piney Run Lake Facebook group. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have close to 2,000 members now that are either from the town or from around Carroll County that use that. And we also have a good good web page that Richard Taylor has set up for us that's full of all the facts with the links and all kinds of information like that. So I'd really like to send that link, because if I just read it to you, we'll screw it up a little bit. But anyway, just kind of an FYI, a lot of our members had heard about some of the things that were proposed for Piney Run and attended the county actually had 2 meetings, and we attended the afternoon and then the later evening meetings. And some of the issues there were brought up, that we need to repair the dam and the spillways to be in Maryland compliance. So everyone really supports that, because who wants to have some kind of dam breach in a heavy rain event that could affect downstream? But they also brought up something that people were very concerned about, which was a little bit about water security. And they proposed some different approaches that kind of made people a little worried, like draining the lake completely. And then if they refilled it, raising it up 2.3 feet over the existing level, which would actually change the footprint of the lake, but change the floodplains and things like that. And they also talked about putting a drinking water facility right on the county property. I saw some of the plans it actually had, and these aren't final plans, and I have to figure out where they are on the webpage for the county. They actually had plans where they were putting things through the middle of town of Sykesville. But anyway, just wanted to bring that to your attention. So they went ahead and they voted the commissioners voted ahead to go with alternative 1, which is doing what we need to be in compliance. And then we did a letter writing campaign, talked to a lot of commissioners, and they decided they didn't have enough information to go ahead with alternative 2, which was draining the lake and, raising the water level. So that it's not tabled, but it's kind of pushed off into the future. But I just wanted to let you know if people haven't been paying close attention to it. Because for me, renting my properties, a big selling point in when we're doing a listing is we kind of show the Piney Run Lake, with the park, and that's a big sell. It's kind of I think it's the jewel of Carroll County personally, because of so much everybody does in terms of recreation. But anyway, just thought I'd let you guys know, if you want to join the Facebook page or you want to look at our web page, then I think you'll be able to get a lot more information. And that was it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the information. I know there's been a lot of questions about it, so that's helpful. And it sounds like it's actually good that they're going with the compliance measures for the moment, and then we'll hopefully stay up with it. So thank you.
And I've been staying abreast of it. So in my real job, I work for the EPA in the Office of Water, and I actually do Drinking Water and Clean Water Act things. And it was just moving like a really fast train. And that was my biggest concern. It was going really fast without a lot of information being shared with the commissioners. And I just think a lot of information about costs and things like that were kind of minimized, but it's very, very expensive. Just FYI, very, very expensive to get the water to be suitable for drinking water, to set up a facility, and then you have a huge amount of money every year for upkeep. And that is not paid for by grants. That would be paid for by residents. And right now with Liberty, we have another 300% capacity for drinking water in our area. So just kind of some fun facts that are coming up that I'm finding out.
That's great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the information. Any other comments, Carrie?
Does not look like it.
Okay. All right. So that brings us to our first item on the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes from March 8th. Any comments, questions on the minutes or the consent agenda?
I actually have a few requests for clarification, and I also had emailed last minute as it was, I emailed our clerk, Carrie, to request an addition to the minutes. She can, did you receive that email, Carrie?
I have not looked at my email tonight.
Okay, then I'll just say it out loud. It was last minute, so I'm not surprised you didn't get it before the meeting. So on the public safety report from our meeting last meeting, March 8th, I think it's important to include within Chief's comments about the new website that's about to be up and running, that it is a website that was designed free of charge at no cost to the residents. And I'm excited to say that it was actually part of a volunteer award that was that I actually passed along to the police department for their badly needed updated website. So I thought it was important for the town to know that. If those could be included. And then also, I was hoping just a quick, almost grammatical error. The HDC, the Historic District Commission's liaison report, it announces that, let me scroll down and look at it. It announces that Mr. Cosentini is looking into some training for opportunities for the HDC. And then the next word after it is she. And I know you're referring to, or the minutes are referring to our liaison, Councilwoman Carter, but if you could just rename that with her name, that'll make a little more sense. And then I have, I guess, a request for clarification from Councilman Grassley with respect to his liaison report to the merchant meeting minutes. Can you pull up the minutes, Carrie? Maybe just help Al answer my question. I don't quite understand the reference or the way it's written, or perhaps how it was said. Something about, I'll wait for you to pull it up.
Go, I got it. I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Stacey, go ahead.
So I don't understand the there, I don't know what the antecedent is to that pronoun there with respect to the merchants voting.
Let's see, they voted on use DSC funds to repair. So the repair the DSC tent.
Okay, so
So
maybe you can read that, say it
DS
correctly so she can update the minutes for me.
Yeah, actually, they voted to use merchant funds to repair the DSC tent.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, is that it?
For me, yes, thank you.
Anybody else, any comments about the minutes? So we're gonna have to make some changes to the minutes, and then we'll go ahead and motion to approve the minutes subject to those changes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the consent agenda is approved with the changes. Okay, first item of business. It's exciting time. It's the call for nominations for mayor and for council members. So what do you want to do first, Carrie? Do the mayor or and then council, or council and then mayor?
I would do mayor and then council.
Okay. So are you going to call them out, or we're going to call for any more, or do we want to read the written ones first?
Let's see, so the written ones, we have Stacy Link and Ian Shaw as nominees for mayor.
Okay. And then is there anybody at the meeting? Okay. And then do the council nominations.
So for council, we have Leo Keenan, Al Grassley, Elizabeth Guroff, William Keith Mathis, and Frank Roberts.
Okay.
I know this is the first time we've done this in this fashion. Is it necessary to read into the record who did the nominations of the candidates?
Carrie, the S is optional on my last name.
I'm sorry, Frank Roberts.
So that's a question, since we're on Zoom. Do we need to read the who they were nominated and seconded by, or do we just need to know that you verified nominations or seconds? How do you want to handle that, Joe? What do you think is the best way for us to do that?
I mean, all the people that have submitted for council have been verified. All the people that did the nominating and seconding have been verified. I mean, if we want for the record, we can certainly read those names in. If Carrie has the forms, I should check with her for that before I say yes.
Yes.
Okay. You want to go ahead and read them in just to be safe?
Sure. So starting with the mayor nominees, we had Eugene Johnson Sr. Nominating, and Wayne Carroll Glenn seconding the nomination of Stacy Carroll Link. And we had Joanne Shaw nominating and Jessica Zador seconding the nomination of Ian Shaw. And then for council members, for Leo Keenan, we had John Bryant Sr. and Patricia Keenan. For Al Grassley, we had Doug Fleming and Greg Glenn. For Elizabeth Guroff, we had Stacy Link and Patricia Meyer. For William Mathis, we had Michelle Mathis and John Tenser Mathis. And for Frank Roberts, we had Al Grassley and Ian Shaw.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yep.
All righty. Are there any other, while we still got this open, anybody else want to get in on this fun? Okay. Well, then I guess we'll close that, or does that stay open? I can't remember how we did this live. Like, what is the time frame that we need? Do we need to leave this open for a little bit just in case somebody comes flying through the door? The electronic door. So
I think in the past we've kept it open until the end of the meeting.
Right. Okay. So we'll keep it open, but we'll move on. All right. Next item on the agenda is the appointment of the Spark commissioners. If you recall, at the last meeting, we did a formal committee for Spark. So as a part of that, now we need to appoint the commissioners to the staggered terms so that we'll have a ongoing committee. So how do you want to handle that, Joe? Do you want to read the whole thing, or?
No, again, I mean, you pretty much said it. This is just a continuation of at the last meeting. We did adopt the ordinance that established the commission for our Parks and Recreation. Now we just want to make sure that the folks that have been doing a lot of the heavy lifting for Spark over the years are officially appointed to that commission. And again, their names are listed there: Chris Civic, Billy Shiflett, Alex Reyes, Brian Trost, Nick Sheets, and Eric Valestein.
Okay, so we got, and then they're staggered terms. So Chris and Billy are 1-year terms. Alex Reyes and Brian Trost are 2-year terms. And then Nick Sheets and Eric Valenstein are 3-year terms. So do we have a motion to approve the appointment of the
I
Sykesville?
just want to jump in there real quick, and then I'll be glad to make the motion. It's just important to note, I know it's written there, but it's pretty tiny for anybody that's watching online. All of these individuals most of them have been on for a very long time. Some of them are newer. And it's important to note that the terms were applied to each of these to be named commissioners based on their tenure. The longer their tenure, the shorter the term of the 1, 2, and 3 year terms that were applied to each. So just wanted to throw that out there. But I will make a motion that we appoint the Sykesville Parks and Recreation Commissioners as a commission and the commissioners as noted below.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so the commissioners are appointed. Our next item of business is to consider and discuss and act on the assigned fund balances. Joe, I'll let you take over this one.
Sure. So as most of you maybe remember, when we had our last audit presentation, you'll remember kind of towards the end of that presentation, they pointed out several assigned fund balances that the town currently has on our books. These are things that throughout the years, these are projects that may have been identified or funds that maybe didn't get used up as part of another project, or just something that the council had discussed at some point in the past where they allocated some funding towards. And again, over the years, these kind of pile up, and sometimes these projects get either forgotten about, or maybe their priority level kind of falls away. So one of the things that we would like to do is really just clean up this assigned fund balance list so that it's really just the relevant things that we know we need to keep reserved, and then really just unassign the other items. Now, this doesn't prevent the council from reassigning funds at a later date. If there is a project that we do identify that we say, hey, we do want to put, X amount of dollars towards a specific project, we can actually list it in our capital plan, and it would just get entered into the capital reserve rather than having a separate assigned fund that just shows up on our audit report every year. So again, lots of different funds that are listed there in front of you, totaling just over $1.4 million. Of the ones we want to unassign, there was a total amount of $285,445 that we would like to unassign. One of the things in talking about unassigning these balances was the town does have one long-term debt general obligation note that's outstanding. Is one of the things that we could potentially use this newly unassigned money for is to pay off that bond. So what we're asking for, what staff is asking for tonight, is to unassign the unhighlighted numbers that are there in front of you, totaling $285,445, and then allowing staff to move forward on paying off that general obligation note at an amount not to exceed an additional $190,000. It's important to note that if we do move forward with the paying off of the general obligation bond, we do have money in the current fiscal year budget that's already assigned to that. So the total payoff will be about $280,000, but the 190 is the additional money that we would put towards that this fiscal year. Happy to answer any questions if anybody has anything specific.
And also important to note that with paying that off, there'll be a $10,000 savings in interest payments. And while we're noting everything, I think it would be important for everybody to know that when I started as mayor, we had $1 million in debt. So this will pay off the last remaining piece of that debt. And we borrowed no money over the last 8 years. And it's exciting to finally end this debt, and we've increased our reserves substantially. So I'm super proud of that. And this will be finishing that last of that debt off. So any questions about it?
Just one, Joe. What's the interest rate for that bond? I just don't remember. Do you know?
I don't off the top of my head. I know the interest payments are roughly, between $6,000 and $8,000 a year.
Okay.
They're about, Jeremiah, I think they're about 4 to 5%, which at the time was low, but in this environment is actually pretty high. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of bang for the buck paying that off. And so, because like you said, over just 2 years, we'll save $10,000. So, and we have the cash to do it. I mean, it doesn't make sense to not to do that, I think.
And Joe, you had mentioned this before, but just if other public are watching, the getting rid of the 23 assigned fund balances, that helps us be able to manage our funds more efficiently, correct? I just want to get that out on the record.
It does. It consolidates, all of these different balances into more manageable funds. So like I said, of all these different projects that are identified on the list in front of you, really a lot of those could just be reassigned to the capital reserve if we decide to keep those funds, allocated to a specific project. But again, I think a lot of these we can go ahead and write off, and then at some point, if it becomes necessary, we can always add them back into the capital plan at a later date.
So I just want to make mention about the $2,987 next to the Historic Commission item there. My memory is, and if I'm wrong, please either way clarify. My memory is that was at one point designated as a fund, if you will, for to be available as a grant for any resident within the historic district who was required to make improvements within keeping to the guidelines in excess of what, other materials or other options that wouldn't be needed or that could be used outside of the historic district, that would be available in certain limited funds per resident. I don't know if anybody here on the council or Joe can speak to that, or anyone on staff.
Yeah, I certainly can't. I haven't found anything that would, point to that specific type of fund. I do know that I've not seen any criteria for that would establish that kind of grant program.
So that's kind of my concern about that particular item. I feel like it has kind of become a little almost see-through. And it's about to disappear altogether off of all of our radar. And I know that it was something that was used when I was on the Historic District Commission. And if not as a commissioner, it was definitely used at least once during my time as the liaison to the HDC here on the council. So I know this, we don't need to get in the weeds about every one of these line items, but this is something that I feel like we need to kind of keep on a list of something that would need to be reapplied to the capital budget and discussed at length at another time.
Right. And that's something that I've never heard of that. And, never seen anybody been offered that. So it would be, if that is what it is, it would be nice to make sure that people know about it and getting offered it. Cause I know lots of people have come before the commission and haven't been offered any relief or help. So if that is something, but the council has the ability to go back in. Keep in mind, the gatehouse, this is just going to go back into the fund, and the gatehouse also has a separate line item. So we could always appropriate funds for that if at later date, there's the Historic District Commission or the council decides that they want to set up some guidelines or get that program back out, to make it work. So
yeah, there's definitely guidelines in place because they at one time, because like I said, it was used during my tenure there. So I guess I'm officially putting that on some sort of a list.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, for tonight's conversation, I guess rather than keep one extra one, is it okay to just delete that one for tonight, and then we'll revisit it and find out the list? Obviously, the council can appropriate funds as they feel necessary for it, and we don't have to section it off. You know what I mean? It doesn't need a separate assigned fund balance for it. If they decide they want to come back, I think that's what Joe was trying to do and Craig, is to clean up all these little things so that we could still have that policy. And then we could money would just come out of the general fund as appropriated each budget cycle, like as a budget item in there. So that's really the way to do it. Put it in the budget as an amount, and then it would draw down each year as used.
Yeah, I think that's why it's an odd number right now, because it started out obviously at a round number and it's been reduced over the years when it was actually being used as an opportunity for the residents.
Casey, to your
Yes.
we haven't had any applications, and I know that spring's coming on, but before that, I was gonna ask the commission to review all of our guidelines to see if we can update those as needed or appropriate. And maybe I'll keep in mind of that line item and possibly put that into our guidelines.
Thank you, Anna. That would make me feel more comfortable about this evening's conversation. That's great.
So just one other topic, and I just want to open it up for conversation. One idea is to do both actions tonight, which is, get rid of the assigned funds. And then the second action is to pay off the debt. I mean, does it matter if we pay off the debt tonight? Or, I mean, is it something that we could talk about what to do with those $190,000? I mean, maybe the right thing is to pay off the debt, but maybe the right thing is there are some other needs. We have the master plan that's coming together. 190,000 might be able to pay for a starter project on that. And so I just kind of like to open that discussion. If a lot of people don't think that that's the right thing, I'm not going to, quote unquote, die on my sword on this topic. But I'm wondering if where folks' head is in reference to, do we need to do both tonight?
I think it'd be a good thing to do both tonight. These funds have been sitting in there for I don't know how long. Let's put them to good use and save $10,000 and not have any debt.
And I like that approach because you're actually going to free up $10,000 more dollars to put to. We have enough cash right now. Keep in mind our reserves are greatly expanded from where they were when we were started. We're close to $3.5 million in total town reserves now as well. And again, when I started as mayor, we have 1.5. So there's a lot more money available to implement some of these things that are coming up with this master plan. So I think we can save $10,000. We've got plenty of extra cash right now. So why not take advantage of the savings? And I think we could actually borrow the money cheaper. If you were going to borrow money now, I think we could get it cheaper than what we're getting it now. If we did another bond right now, the rates would be way better. So it would be smarter if you wanted to borrow money to borrow it in today's environment than carry this note.
Yeah, I mean, I follow you. Any other people have any other thoughts?
I am all about getting rid of debt whenever possible. So I like that.
All right, so I'll make the motion to authorize the release of assigned fund balances as noted and authorize staff to proceed with payoff of the remaining general obligation note in an amount not to exceed $190,000.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, great. Well, thanks, Craig. I know Craig and Joe worked on this a lot to get these numbers pulled down for us. So thank you both for that. Appreciate it. All right, our next item is to consider, discuss, and act on the community parks and playground splash pad. And again, this is for some BGE. We had a little snafu on the electric for the wonderful splash pad. So we'll go ahead. Joe, did you want to explain?
Yeah, I'll introduce it, and certainly I think Jared's on the call too. So if there's any specific questions about the project, he might be better able to answer them. But so as everybody remembers, the town did receive a $150,000 grant. We were matching that with $100,000 from the town for a total of $250,000 to construct the splash pad. We did know that there was going to have to be some electrical work done, obviously, to run the splash pad. However, when BGE was out on site and doing their, site assessment to run the electric, it was determined that the current circuit right there near Cooper Park was already at its max. So there was going to have to be an upgrade that was going to happen. That was unexpected. It did come in at just under $30,000 there. So we are asking that the town allocate an additional $30,000 from the unassigned fund balance. So we just put some additional funds there in the unassigned fund balance of $30,000 so that we can continue making progress on the splash pad construction.
Any questions for Jared if he's on the line, or Joe about this? So the long and short of it was there wasn't enough electric sufficient electric to run the splash pad at the where the restrooms are for the snack shack and all. So
I guess I should have said as well that this will increase our ability if there's other things that we want to do at Cooper Park, outside of the splash pad. I know there's some street lights that kind of line Cooper Drive that haven't worked in years. This upgrade will allow us to do some of that work in the future as well.
So not a question, but maybe more of a comment. It's, we've debated what to do with 50,000 quite ardently in the past. And so here's 30,000 that we ran into a snafu on. What are we learning from this process? And it's more of a rhetorical question than anything, but are there some things that we can do just to kind of anticipate this? Is there anything in our process that we need to do in terms of kind of the preparatory work prior to getting into this? I've been in a lot of construction projects in my past, and this happens a lot. This is kind of a normal part of the process. But is there anything that we can do? And I'll just throw that out as we navigate forward.
So one of the things I think maybe, Jeremiah, it's a good point. And I think what we should probably start doing when we're looking at these projects, when we get these hard numbers, is starting to add a contingency budget with them, maybe a 15, 20% cushion. Because like you said, almost 9 times out of 10, something pops up that you didn't anticipate. And it would be smart to probably do that. Because I think when we're thinking, wow, we got just enough money to do it, the grant was 150 and then we put the other money into it, and then it comes out to be 225 and we're a little short, so I think a contingency might be a good way. Joe, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, to maybe start adding a 10 to 15% or something into these?
No, I agree. Obviously, a contingency fund on all these projects are certainly always a good best practice. Matter of fact, every time you see an engineering estimate, there's always a 10 or 15% contingency. I think something else, that, I've at least noticed just moving forward is, obviously thinking through all of these projects maybe a little bit better before, applying for the grants and getting the funding in place and making sure that we have a clear idea and clear plan for, what the big picture is before we dive into these individual projects like this. And I think, starting with the comprehensive plan and kind of moving from there and just getting a little bit better about, strategizing how we pull each of these off.
Yeah, and I'm kind of excited about it. I mean, but with the comp plan, obviously, but one of the things, Jeremiah, that I think they're good to put on the radar is the ongoing cost of these things, so that's going to be important for everybody to start thinking about too, is not only what does it cost to get it, but what is the annual maintenance and ongoing cost of these things? And they probably should be weighed and considered when we're implementing things too. So now that we're at this beginning of the comp plan, it'll be good to be thinking about that, for whatever we do, like what's the maintenance cost, what's the ongoing costs. So
yeah, I totally agree with you, Mayor. That's something that often gets left out, is the O&M fees afterwards.
Great. All right.
One more thing, Joe, I don't expect you to have it now, but I would like to at least hear, and I'll take an email. If we were 5% short of our kilowatt necessary, I'd like to know we have at least 5 or 10 more, rather than same idea of what we're talking about cost. I would like to know how much more we bought, in case we suddenly start saying, it'd really be nice if we could plug this and this and this in, and suddenly say, oh crap, we're 5% below where we need to be again.
We can definitely pull that information
Fine if you
together.
want.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mark. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the budget adjustment for the splash pad?
Mr. Mayor, before you do that, I believe Frank Robert would like to ask a question.
Okay, all right, Frank, go ahead.
If he's there.
Yeah, there we go. Quick question. With all these upgrades that we're doing, will we have Wi-Fi available for the town events that they're there? I'm just thinking, like, if they're doing interactions. I know there was talking about gaming on the big screen and stuff like that at one time. Would we have Wi-Fi? I know we've got Wi-Fi at the Gatehouse Museum. Do we need to boost that, or has that been considered during these upgrades while we're upgrading stuff there at Cooper Park? That's my question.
Yeah, and I can answer. There isn't a plan to expand Wi-Fi throughout Cooper Park. That is certainly something that could be considered at a later date as another amenity there, but that's not part of these upgrades that we're doing. It's strictly electric right now.
I don't know. I'm just uncomfortable with the public commenting and us engaging in discussion. I'm not comfortable with that process. It's a great question and I appreciate it, but I know it's difficult because we're on Zoom and things seem a little awkward in the first place, but public comment time is at the beginning of our meetings, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yep. But thanks for the input. I guess the only question that maybe would come out of that is there a way are we cutting the road? Are they going under the road, Joe, with this upgrade, or is this all on the other side from the gatehouse is what I'm saying?
And Jared can correct me if I'm wrong, but they will be boring this line.
That's correct. They'll be going underground, under the road.
So they'll be going under the road from the gatehouse to the other side. Is that where it's like? Where is this going?
It's behind the gatehouse area, in kind of that wooded area back there where the old railroad tracks used to be.
So Mike, I guess the only question I have, which is sort of related to this, can we get a conduit through there as part of this process that in case we ever do need to run additional lines there, we can do it, or what?
Actually, yes. And I've actually been in talks with the contractor about that because Joe is correct in that we haven't really had the original plan did not call for any Wi-Fi or anything like that. However, one thing that, Joe and I have not discussed this yet, obviously, but it is a possibility to get either some wireless internet or some hardwired internet in the building, in the mechanics room, for the purpose of being able to check the chlorine levels and the mechanic, the pieces of machinery in there actually on an app on your phone. And so I am actually trying to do that because I feel like it would be a lot easier for us in the town, as well as any of the public works guys that may need to be checking that daily. So that is an option. It's something I need to discuss with Joe though first, because it's not in the original plan.
Okay. Just something to put on your guys' radar. If we could get the conduit, that always gives us options down the road later without having to start from scratch.
Yeah.
All right. So any other questions on this? Anybody else got any questions? Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the adjustment?
It's on the staff report
Right.
under staff recommendation.
Staff recommendation. Let me see here.
Somebody have it, I'd be happy to read it. Who's the Parks and Recs person, Stacy? Don't you want to read that?
Yeah, if you need me to read that, I'll be glad to. 1 second.
I have it up.
No, I've got it up. Spark liaison up and ready here. 1 second.
Awesome.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the additional electrical work needed at Millard Cooper Park in the amount not to exceed $30,000 with funds being allocated from the unassigned fund balance.
Second.
Well, you got lots of seconds. All those in favor?
I think Anna's the second on this one.
Right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All righty. Okay, so that brings us to our announcements. The next Mayor and Town Council meeting is on Monday, April 12th. This too will be a Zoom meeting. Hopefully sometime in the near future, we'll get back into meeting in person. But for now, we're still on Zoom. We have volunteer opportunities available on Spark, I think still, Police Auxiliary, and the Crossing Guard. You can email town@sykesville.net for more information about volunteering with the town. The election is May 4th. Mail-in voting applications are currently available on the town website at townofsykesville.org or at the townhouse. The polls will be open May 4th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you can vote safely in person. We'll have one way in, one way out. And that brings us next to staff updates. So, Joe, you have any?
Yeah, just a few quick ones. I did want to let everybody know I did sit in on the county's technical review committee meeting this morning. They are, I guess, looking at a concept plan for the project at Raincliff Road in Buttercup. Again, a lot of the same concerns I had with the project were already being addressed by or already being commented on by the county review agencies. So it had a lot to do with connectivity and proper screening, stormwater control. I know Brandon Smith, the president there of the Raincliff HOA, was also participated in that meeting and provided some public comments. So again, the county is certainly on top of it, making sure that any of our potential concerns of a development on that site are going to be addressed by the developer there as they move forward. So we'll obviously keep an eye on that project. It is an industrial site. It is being proposed as a warehouse. I believe it's a electronics deconstruction type facility. So they take electronics and take them apart and recycle the pieces. That's what's being proposed to go there at the corner of Buttercup and Raincliff.
So Joe, on that particular project, because not everyone understands what connectivity is, what that means is a sidewalk from Raincliff up to the corner so that we'd essentially have a walking path from the town all the way to Freedom Park, correct?
That is correct. So yeah, there's a sidewalk that terminates right there at the town border. Something else that's been ongoing is the Baltimore Regional Council has been working with the county and the town to make a connection from Freedom Park to downtown. And obviously that's a big missing link is right there between the Raincliff subdivision and Freedom. So at the very least, because again, it is an industrial property, I'm not sure the county has requirements that sidewalks be provided along there. However, they are requesting that the developer work with the consultant that's been hired by the Baltimore Regional Council to help with this, the Patapsco Greenway Trail to make that connection. So anything they do on site will complement what's already being planned for that connection. So there's lots of moving parts there, but it is certainly on everybody's radar to make sure that that connection gets made in one fashion or another. And whatever development happens there doesn't close that door.
So what was the for the sidewalk? Where does that stand? I'm just curious where that stands. Is that included? Or are they still talking about it? Or
yeah, I mean, it came up as a comment that they want the developer to look at the potential for including that as part of their development. But again, it's an industrial site, so it's not like a residential subdivision where you can require sidewalks. You typically don't want people necessarily walking by an industrial building. But again, making sure that the potential to build that sidewalk is still there, regardless of what gets built on that site, is of utmost importance. Because again, we want to, one way or another, we're going to make that connection to Freedom Park. I think is really what the ultimate goal is at the end of the day.
And it's not currently on the development plan, Mayor.
okay, all right. Thanks for that clarification. Okay, yep. Thanks for the update.
Sure. A couple other quick ones. Warfield, I know at our last meeting we did talk about their catalytic tax credit bill that they've been working through the state legislature. I will say that it did come out of committee today. It was voted unanimously out of committee, so that is moving forward. There's still plenty of hoops it's got to jump through to get passed, but that was a good sign that it came out of committee. And then the only other item on Warfield was we are beginning to work with DHCD on their strategic demolition grant. We do have a signed contract between the town and DHCD. We now need a subrecipient agreement between the town and Warfield. So we will start to put that together, and we will be presenting that to council at a later meeting, hopefully sooner rather than later. But we can figure out exactly how that's going to how those processes will work as far as reimbursement through that grant.
Joe,
Yeah.
while you're on that topic, can you explain a little bit further with respect to what is intended or what's behind the desire for that specific grant, the strategic demolition grant with respect to Warfield? Is there a particular?
Well, this is that 750,000 that was done. Again, the original scope was for historic renovations. It was modified to include the wetlands remediation that has to happen on site, some infrastructure repair, and then of course, historic renovation is still included in the scope of work. But as far as how much money will be dedicated to that, is unknown at this point.
And specifically, because I know we talked a great deal about this at the time with respect to changing the scope of that grant or the purview of the job description for it. The word infrastructure was used dozens of times in that conversation, but I'm not sure many people are clear about what specific infrastructure is being referred to. If it's specific to the park with the wetlands mitigation, I mean, or if it's other infrastructure, or is it not specified?
My understanding, and again, it could include more, but my understanding is that there are several roads out there that need repaving, and it'll likely go to something like that.
Just wanted the public to be aware of that. Thank you.
Sure. And then the only other thing I have is, again, on our schedule is to introduce the budget. Sorry, I'm looking at a calendar at our next council meeting, which would be April 12th. And then rather than having a second council meeting in April, we might just do a large workshop where we can go through the budget and also start taking comments from council members and maybe work through some of the comp plan questions. So kind of combining those so that we have the context of, working through the comp plan and then looking right at the budget to see if there are specific things that we want to make sure are included in next fiscal year's budget. So again, just to keep on your radar for, I don't know exactly what day it'll be. It might be the Monday that would normally be our second council meeting, or it might be another day sometime during that week. But again, we'll get that information out to you as soon as I have all that budget information prepared. And that's all I had, unless there's any questions from council.
Any other questions for Joe?
Thanks, Joe.
Yep. Thank you, sir. Okay, public safety report, Chief, you're up.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Just having some technical difficulties here. I lost my internet, but I'm back on, so I'm going to try to get through this. Bear with me. As you can see, the public safety report covers period March 1st through the 14th, so a 2-week period. During that time, we had a total of 334 events. Nothing special about any of these events other than 195 patrol checks, 41 traffic enforcement initiatives. Again, for a total of 334 events. We did handle 12 incident reports during the same period, which would also be in your packet. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions about any of this.
Any questions for the chief?
Actually, I have a question with respect to, I think it was number 43 or 45, find my notes here. Chief, with respect to the another graffiti tagging in our pedestrian tunnel.
Right.
Where are we with respect to our conversation months ago about security cameras in that tunnel? Has anything moved forward since that last conversation from your perspective, sir?
It has. In fact, we do have a camera there.
Okay.
So Officer Kirkner is kind of our camera guy, and I'm waiting for him to get back to pull that camera and check the card to see if we have any viable suspects from that. So we're keeping our fingers crossed and hoping we get something from that. And I'll certainly update you at the next meeting.
Thank you, Chief.
Well,
once we get that Wi-Fi, we can watch them cameras all the time.
there you go. That would be really nice.
Right.
And Chief, with respect to the multiple calls to the Willow Bottom address, I know some family members I've reached out to see if they can help at all. So
fantastic. Yeah, I had a feeling that would come up. I took some notes. We've responded there over 20 times in the last year, and 911 has been called over 25 times in the last year. So it is an issue. I can't get into all the specifics due to HIPAA and privacy concerns, but we are addressing it. I have reached out to a number of county agencies for assistance. But I can assure you, we've brought every resource to bear to try to provide that residents with some resources and assistance, and primarily to reduce the number of 911 calls because it is somewhat of a drain on not only us but fire and EMS to have to keep going out there. But I'm happy to say we are making some progress. So hopefully you'll see the calls decreasing here in the very near future.
Good. No, I can tell from the report you guys are doing everything you can, so I appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we've done quite a few CIT referrals. You know, had the behavioral health units involved in many of the calls. And again, like I said, I've reached out to the heads of several county agencies to make sure we're not missing anything or overlooking any other options. And I feel like we're on the right path. And we haven't had any calls recently, so I'm hoping that the necessary help has been provided.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wanted to thank you, Chief, too, for handing out the guides. I know you've had a couple of these incidents, and appreciate you handing out the Behavioral Health Resource and Service Directory. So that's
Absolutely.
awesome. I think
it's a great resource to have, and we hand it out every chance we get.
Great.
I'm constantly reminding the officers to make sure they keep a supply in their cars and hand them out when appropriate.
Great. Thank you.
I did want to say, if there was no further questions, very happy to report that after quite some time now, we've been able to hire a new officer. Officer Radcliffe Darby will be starting with us this Friday, actually, March 26th. It'll be his first day of field training. He comes to us from Westminster Police Department. He retired with 20 years of service and actually retired as a lieutenant, which is a command level position. So I feel very, very grateful to have hired him as an officer. He brings a lot to the table that'll benefit us in the town. He's a certified instructor, a firearms instructor, has a wealth of experience and knowledge. So again, I'm very happy to report that we've hired him and he starts Friday, and I'm looking forward to great things from him.
Wonderful news.
Yeah, that's a great job. Yeah, we're finally full. It's awesome.
Yes, knock on wood.
Yep.
Great job, Chief.
Thank you. One last thing I would like to mention real quick is we recently were able to recognize some of our officers for 2020 performance, and very happy to report that Officer Jason Kirkner is once again our Officer of the Year. This is the 4th year in a row for Jason. Just a phenomenal employee. His performance is exceptional, and he does so much more than just his regular role as a police officer. His technical expertise in helping us with cars and cameras and equipment, radios, computers. He's literally an invaluable asset to us. So he was once again our Officer of the Year for 2020. Officer Mike Schlereth was once again the Community Policing Officer of the Year, and this is his 4th time. So a lot of repeat performances, but that's good. As you all know, Officer Schlereth does a great job with community policing, and he headed up our holiday donation drive for the family in need. He does a great job with that every year, takes the initiative to go out and identify the right family. So very proud of these 2 officers. And from the auxiliary side, our Auxiliary Sergeant Annalise Young was named the Auxiliary Police Officer of the Year. Again, phenomenal employee, is always near the top 1 or 2 in terms of total volunteers hours each year, and it's just a very impressive young lady. We're very fortunate to have her, and hopefully we'll have her in a more permanent position sometime in the near future. So just wanted to make you aware of that, and please, if you see any of these 3 officers, please let them know how proud you are of them as well. Thank you.
Will do, Chief. Thanks a lot, man. That's awesome. Any questions for the Chief? All right, that's a great job. Tell them we all said thank you very much as well. Appreciate everything you guys are doing. Do a great job.
Thank you.
All right, council committee reports. Scroll down here. We'll start with you, Anna. Historic District Commission.
All right, the Historic District Commission was supposed to have a meeting tomorrow, but we don't have any applications, so it has been canceled. Next meeting is scheduled for the 4th Tuesday of April. We will send out a notification if we have any applications and if it is going to be scheduled. With that said, I had made mention earlier in the meeting that I would like to review our guidelines. I know that the Historic District guidelines have initially written back in 1998, and there's so many different changes and upgrades and materials out there that weren't available back when it was first written. So I would like to, next couple months, 6 months or so, slowly go through it and make any type of modifications, changes, upgrades, and then Stacy, we will include looking into that grant and have it actually written in the in our guidelines.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay,
That's it.
great. All right, Stacy, Parks and Rec.
Great, thank you. So we have not met, Spark has not met since our last town council meeting, but I would like to remind everyone and announce again that in coordination with the Keep Sykesville Beautiful affiliation through the Downtown Sykesville Connection, Spark will be joining the DSC as well as Trash Troopers for our first KSB or Keep Sykesville Beautiful public event. And it will be a plugging event. And I won't quiz anybody here at the table. I'll just give the answer. Plugging stands for picking up litter whilst jogging. And pardon my hoarse voice. And the event begins at 1 p.m. this Saturday, the 27th. The Fountain Park is on Oklahoma Road there, and that's exactly where you can sign up, register for to participate in this very fun event. It's being sponsored by Immaculate Clean Incorporated. They are a house cleaning company out of Eldersburg, and they want to beautify our town as much as they want to beautify your home. So they are graciously sponsoring this event. And there will also be, it's a twofer. There's a second event that will be perhaps a little more conducive to those of us who don't like to jog or run and still want to beautify our downtown area. We will be picking up cigarette butts by the dozens, and there will be awards in both events, in both categories of plugging and no buts about it event. So come one, come all, even if you just want to watch people pick up cigarette butts or run with trash bags.
Great, thanks. And
Oh,
then
our next meeting, sorry, our next meeting, Spark meets again this Thursday, the 25th. It's a virtual meeting, of course, at 6 p.m. Thank you.
okay, and the butts are on the same day, 27th as well.
Say again, I'm sorry?
The butts picking up event on the 27th.
Yeah, it's a two for one on Saturday.
Gotcha. Okay, all right, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
Al, you're up next.
So do you get a free pack of cigarettes if you pick up the most cigarette butts? Is that the prize?
No, you actually get to learn how horrible cigarette butts are for our environment. That's the prize.
All right. Hey, that sounds good, Stacy. The merchants have not met yet since the last meeting. We are meeting Friday, and I'll give you a report on our next town council meeting.
Got it. Leo, you're up next.
Yeah, with spring, there's a lot going on with the Green Committee. So April 10th, there is a garden cleanup. Julie has gotten 2 grants related to gardens and cleanup. One is a Grow More Good Grassroots grant of $500 mini grant for youth education programs at the schoolhouse and the Main Street Community Gardens. Also a $5,000 cleanup and green up grant award from Keep Maryland Beautiful. It's the 3rd time we've received this award, and it'll cover 4 compartment trash cans at the Farmers Market, South Branch Park, and Millard Cooper Park. Julie's working on several more corporate grant applications for youth programs. The second wave of grant applications are being reviewed for rent relief, and those funds will be distributed shortly. We had a board meeting Saturday, March 13th. It was sort of a Zoom retreat discussing corporate structure and branding. Our next board meeting is April 19th. And still pushing for the Art and Wine Festival for May 22nd. It's going to be a more reduced event. It's more of a wine stroll. No food trucks, no outside vendors are going to be there because we're trying to keep as much distancing as possible. Limited ticket sales. It's going to involve a lot of blocking off areas and basically keeping people penned in and ticketed only people coming in, so that we can comply with all health department regulations. But Julie's working with the county health department on that, as well as the town, to make sure everything goes smoothly. And that's all I have.
Okay. All right. Let's see who's next. Jeremiah.
Raincliff did not meet, but Brendan did reach out to me in reference to what Joe's talking about with the development opportunity, and I connected him with Joe. The Maryland Municipal Legislative Committee did meet, and there was two things that I'd like to share with the group and with the public. First one is in reference to highway user revenue. So these are funds that the town gets, that municipalities get to help take care of our roads. And where that is so there's two things that were a priority this year. One of them was getting rid of the sunset. So in the end of 2024, funding will go down unless legislation changes. And then right now we get, the municipalities get approximately 85% of the funds that are available. And so we were looking to try to get that back to 100%. So what's been happening is that both the Senate and the House within the state of Maryland are pushing forward with these bills. The Senate actually voted 47-0 on March 18th to approve one piece of those two pieces. So that was getting rid of the sunset. And it's currently, as of tonight, when I'm looking at trackbill.com, it looks like it's currently in committee in the House. Unless, Mayor, you know something else in reference to that.
Yeah, no, that's where I think it's where it is too, is working through the House now. So we're optimistic that it's going to get approval in the House. They were waiting for one or side or the other to take it up. So the Senate did take it up. And then, so yeah, I'm on the same page you are with that.
Great. And then the second, so different topic, the second thing that was brought up by the executive director of MML was that they were proud to have some things on their websites in reference to the COVID relief bill funding, which Joe shared with all of us about a week ago. But I wanted to mention for the public that it looks like the town of Sykesville will receive about $3.3 million. The first allotment of funds should come in the next 90 or so days. And the second allotment would come a year later. And just so that folks are aware of what some of the allowable uses are, it's to respond or to mitigate COVID-19 health emergency or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, nonprofits, in aid for tourism, travel, and hospitality, to provide essential workers with premium pay, to cover revenue loss as a result incurred as a result of COVID-19 emergency, and to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure, which have all been pain points for the town. And then one thing that it's not used for, and this is an important piece, is that funds may not be used to support any pension fund or offset a tax cut. So just want to make sure people were aware of that. We need more information from the state and from the feds in order to how to use the funds appropriately, but it should be a big influx of cash that we'll be discussing in future discussions. Thanks, Mayor.
Yep. No, thank you. And then we did ask Senator Van Hollen's office about the stormwater, because they said water and sewer. So we asked them to clarify if stormwater could be clarified in that, because that's something that we have some issues with here in town. So we'll know more once they get back with us. Okay, that brings me to Mark.
The planning commission has not met since our last meeting, so I've got nothing to report, but to remind everyone that the actual commission members are to have their comments about the comprehensive plan in by the end of the month. And if I could speak for Joe, I suspect he's as anxious as I am to read what they put forward. I'm pretty impressed with it, but they have a lot more experience than I, and they may have caught some weaknesses we didn't. But overall, I think we're gonna go ahead pretty quickly, and I think we're gonna like what we see. That's it.
Great. And I think a couple of the things just on that. I mean, there's a couple little minor things, but I think there's some corrections and things that need to be done on that. So I guess we're going to talk to Joe and sort of get that thing cleaned up a little bit from its first draft that you've seen there. We're going to go back to them. And then hopefully as we get through projects and ideas on this, I want everybody to keep an open mind to get the public involved more. I think we really got shortchanged a little bit with COVID on having the public participation process that we had all hoped for as part of this. So I'm hoping that as we go forward with proposals, we'll be able to really put them out there a little bit for the public to see and participate in going through. So that's just my thought on it, because I feel like we kind of COVID really sort of messed that up, you know. So.
Absolutely. And I don't mean to imply that it's absolutely perfect. There's something in it I really don't like. But I think overall it's good, and it gives us a direction to go. I don't believe in perfection. I believe in working towards perfection.
No, absolutely. I think it's been the best new updated roadmap we've had in quite some time. We've been operating off a pretty old master plan that was kind of updated on the cheap. I'll just say it that way, because we had, you know, some well-intentioned people doing it, but I don't think it was comprehensive enough to really. It wasn't a good roadmap. So I'm glad we've got a freshened up roadmap, and then it's just a start. It's a guide to get us going. So thanks, Mark. All right. Okay. I didn't leave anybody out, right? That's everybody. Okay. Oh, and then no updates from the gatehouse or the colored schoolhouse. I know they're working on the garden down there, getting things moving. I did want to mention the MML scholarship program. So the 2021 scholarship program is out for the 8 municipalities. You can get the people interested in applying for it can get all the details on Hampstead's website, www.hampsteadmd.gov. And it's under the news and announcements, as well as under helpful links and documents. So the deadline is Friday, May 7th. 2021, and I think Carrie has all the details as well. So you could email her at town of Sykesville.org or net. I guess it comes to both, right?
It's town at Sykesville.net.
Great.
Just so that's out there correctly.
All right. Yeah, appreciate that. So the application is on, we have that available, and I'd encourage everybody to look at the criteria. I won't go through all the stuff on it because it's a little bit involved, but look at the criteria on it. It's easy. We would love to have a winner from Sykesville. We're giving out 3 $1,000 scholarships, and you must live in one of the 8 incorporated municipalities, hopefully Sykesville, and go ahead and get it. Okay. Anything else that we need to cover? I think that's it, right? All right. So motion to adjourn, I think, is in order.
Motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we will adjourn, but just before we do that, I guess this means we should be able to get the ballot out a little bit quicker, correct? Now that we don't have any additional people that need to wait until April 12th. So they should be able to get the ballot drafted quicker. So, all right, we're adjourned.
Have a good evening.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.